Welcome back everybody to linuxacademy.com. My name is Terry, and in today's video we continue our Linux Foundation Certified System Administration Prep exam. So we've looked at how we can create and then edit files on our file system. So now let's look at some of the tools that are available to manipulate the text that are within files on our file system. So we've created a couple of different types of text files that we're going to work with using a number of different commands today. So let's take a look and see what we have available. So if we list out our files, we have change case.txt, delimited, format, hardware list, shopping list. So we're going to take a look at a number of these. And our old friend, the cat or concatenate tool, is one of the ways that we can look at what the contents are from within any of our text files. So for example, if we do a cat on our shopping list, we'll see that it will simply concatenate out the shopping list as well. If we had a file that would overrun the screen size, we could use one of two additional tools to allow us to pause at the end of each screen and hit either the space or the enter key in order to move on. So if we were using cat, for example, on the shopping list, we could pipe that to more, which would pause the screen if it overran our terminal. So for example, we can take a look at if we take our terminal and we make it a lot smaller than it is. Let's take our terminal here and we'll shrink it down so that we've only got a couple of lines. And now if we repeat that command, that shopping list.more, our terminal is smart enough to realize that it can only output 3 lines at a time, and then it gives us a more. And then it gives us a more until we've gone through the entire contents with a space or an enter key. We could also pipe that to a less, which effectively does the same exact thing, but instead of saying more, it gives us a colon prompt that we can just simply space through until we're at the end, and it tells us that we're at the end. So let's go ahead and expand this. So now we've looked at a couple of ways at displaying our files that are available to us. So if we list the files that are here, we can do a couple of things. These are ways that we can manipulate files without necessarily changing the content of the files, just how they're displayed. So for example, if we cat out again our shopping list, we will look and see that we want to get milk, eggs, bread, tape, oil, bananas, oranges, steak, and candy. That's great, but perhaps I need an alphabetical listing of the items that are in that text file because the store that I'm going to has everything splayed out in alphabetical order. Obviously, that's not generally the case, but we can use a tool that's available to us called sort. And again, when we're going over any of these command line utilities, when you want to know more about them, other than what we're going to be covering here, which are just the basics, I suggest that you read the man pages for them. It'll give you all of the command line utilities and options for each of the utilities that we're going to be looking at, and it'll tell you a formal definition of what it is. So in this case, sort lines of text files. Write sorted concatenation of all files to standard output with the following options. So all we're going to do is let's do the simplest thing. So let's do sort on shopping list. And what it'll do is it now takes that information, and by default it will output to the console the contents of the shopping cart in alphabetical order. Now if I want to do it in reverse alphabetical order, it's very easy to do. All I do is pass in a -R option, and then now I will start with tape and end with bananas instead of starting with bananas and ending with tape. Again, not a huge deal, but it's one of the utilities that we can use to manipulate our text files once we've created them. So one of the other things that we can do, if we look at, for example, we have a hardware list. So we've created a shopping list and a hardware list. And we've got these two lists and they contain different things. But for example, say we were going to Walmart, Target, anything that, or any other store that offers both hardware as well as food items that we might. We've got these two lists and we want to combine them into a single list. We can do that easily enough using catting our files so that we can combine them together. So let's clear our screen, and since we can't use join because we don't have a common field, we can use cat. So if we do cat shopping list, now we can cat the contents of shopping list to our hardware list, or we can cat the shopping list to a new file called combined list.txt, and then we can cat our hardware list, but in this case we're going to concatenate by appending to the combined list that we actually just created, combined list.txt. Now if we look at our file system, we have our shopping list that we haven't changed, our hardware list that we haven't changed, but we now have a new file called combined list.txt, which contains all of our individual items from the two files. So now let's take a look at another file. So if we look at a file called format, let's do cat and format.txt. We'll see that we have a file that is formatted or spaced extremely strangely, meaning we've got tabs and extra spaces throughout the file. That could be for any number of reasons. It could be an error log. It could be just a text file that you copied from another system that's got tabs that didn't quite convert to spaces correctly. But we can use something that's called format, or abbreviated with FMT, and a -U option, which includes outputting the text with uniform spacing. And again, if we do man FMT, we'll see that it's a simple optimal text formatter, and we've got a bunch of different options that we can do. We can split, tag the paragraph, etc. But what we're going to do in this case is let's do an FMT -U, and then the file that we want to format, which is our format.txt. And you'll see that now this is a text file that has weird spacing and we need to fix it. If we want, we can take that output and now we can create a new file called formatted.txt. And now if we cat out formatted.txt, we will see that it has the newly formatted text that was strangely formatted up here from the original file. So that's one of those command line tools that's really useful, especially as you're formatting different types of log files that may have strange characters, spacing, etc. So let's go ahead and clear this here. One of the other things that we can do is if we want to get the number of lines in a particular text file, our largest text file here looks to be the combined list. So if we wanted to get the number of lines for the combined list, we can do a NL and then the combined list, and it'll number our lines for us, telling us that it's 15. And if we do a man on NL, we can see that we have a number of different options that are available for us. So I encourage you every time to simply just go through the man pages when you want to learn more about a particular command line tool, because most of them have multiple options. We're showing you the most simple options for manipulating text at the command line. Finally, one of the things that we want to look at is a command called cut, and this is a way of removing delimiters or displaying files that have delimiters in them so that they're a little more clearly. So let's take a look at what we mean by that. So let's look at all of our files, and we have a file called delimited.txt. If we cat out delimited.txt, we'll see that it's strangely, on one line it has a semicolon, and on another line it has a bracket. So if we want to view the contents of this file so that it is removing one of the delimiters, we can simply do a cut -D, and then in single quotes the delimiter that we want removed, and then the file itself, delimited.txt, along with the section that we want for it to remove. So for example, we would just want to see the first section, so we should then see this is A, and then the remainder of the file because we didn't remove the second delimiter. We can also remove the second delimiter simply by changing from the semicolon to the square bracket, and it should tell us The first line, which it will ignore because it doesn't come to the delimiter, but it should also tell us the first part of the second line, in which case this is a delimited file we can use, etc. Now we can also say that we want to view all of the columns. For example, there's only 2 columns for us in this. However, it doesn't actually remove the delimiter in this case. It gives you both of them, leaving the delimiter in. Cut is a very, very common tool used at the command line to manipulate text, especially in conjunction with sort and trim, so that you can reformat multiple text files into a single text file. So we've covered a large number of text manipulation tools at the command line. There are many more that we can go over, but for manipulating text from the command line, this is a good start. My name is Terry for Linux Academy.